This is Andrey Santos.
Decent ball as well from Neto. There's Andrey Santos! It's 2-0 Chelsea!
But when United signed him from Chelsea for £50 million, it came as a huge surprise. After all, the 22-year-old Brazilian wasn't the experienced midfield signing many United supporters had expected, nor a like-for-like replacement for the departed Casemiro. Yet so far, Santos is showing that he is exactly what United need this season, and perhaps even more. Santos arrives at United having been shaped by three very distinct footballing cultures. His story begins at Vasco da Gama in Brazil's Serie A, where he broke into the first team as a teenager and, by 19, showed enough composure and authority to convince Chelsea to invest £18 million in January 2023. Bro, what were you doing at 19? But his early months in England were defined by patience rather than progress. With Moisés Caicedo and Enzo Fernandez established in midfield, opportunities at Stamford Bridge were limited, while a loan to Nottingham Forest during the first half of the 2023-24 season brought just 2 appearances. It was in France, however, where Santos' career truly gathered momentum. A subsequent move to Blue Co-owned Strasbourg for the remainder of that campaign allowed him to rediscover the qualities that earned him the move to Chelsea in the first place. And boy, did it prove to be a breakthrough. Returning to Strasbourg for the full 2024-25 season, Santos had, by spring, even forced his way into conversations as one of the league's best midfielders. He led the division outright in ground duels, won with a 71% success rate and ranked among the top players for combined tackles and interceptions. Just as importantly, he added end product to his game, finishing the season with 10 goals and 3 assists in 26 appearances. And across a total of 18 months in France, he delivered 12 goals and 5 assists in 45 games. Santos then returned to Chelsea at the start of the 2025-26 season under Enzo Maresca, finally making his long-awaited debut for the Blues at the Club World Cup. Although there were encouraging flashes, particularly during a bright spell under Liam Rosenior, he never could quite nail down a starting spot at Chelsea. His performances were enough to earn 6 caps for Brazil, but he was ultimately left out of Carlo Ancelotti's World Cup squad. In total, Santos made 43 appearances across all competitions for Chelsea, yet only 25 of those were starts, and just 13 came in the Premier League, a lack of consistent opportunities that ultimately drove him to seek a regular role elsewhere. By the way, if you're enjoying the video so far, we'd be incredibly grateful if you subscribed. Your support helps us grow and continue creating the content you love. After missing out on Matheus Fernandes, following their reluctance to meet a fixed £85 million fee which, for a relegation-bound West Ham side, borders on daylight robbery, it's hardly surprising that United pivoted toward younger, more affordable alternatives who still offer Premier League experience. In that respect, Santos fits the bill and even shares stylistic similarities with Fernandes, as both are adept progressive passers and combine that with a strong ability to win their duels out of possession. One of United's key objectives this summer has been to find the right midfield partner for Kobbie Mainoo, but as far as midfielders go, Mainoo is, first and foremost, a ball carrier. His most impactful moments come when he collects the ball deep and drives forward, evading pressure with close control rather than by splitting lines with line-breaking passes. It's a valuable trait and one Michael Carrick will certainly look to spam, but it can also turn United's build-up play into a one-trick pony. Because if Mainoo gets crowded out or dispossessed, there is often no alternative way to progress the ball but to hoof it upfield to Sesko and inshallah. Santos offers a solution to this tactical dilemma, being a pass-first midfielder ranked in the 99th percentile among Premier League midfielders for progressive passes completed. In that sense, he complements rather than replicates Mainoo, as he ranks in just the 19th percentile for progressive carries, preferring to release the ball early. Against stronger opposition, United will likely adopt a deeper mid to low block, just as they did in victories over City and Arsenal last season. Within that structure, a Mainoo-Santos partnership has real potential to thrive, with less space in behind to protect and more clearly defined roles in both possession and transition. With Casemiro departing, the obvious solution for United would have been to seek a direct replacement. At his best, Casemiro's game is defined by his front-footed defensive intensity, stepping out to snuff out danger and break up attacks before they gather momentum. Crucially, his defensive steel is matched by a calmness on the ball and an ability to spray passes so perfectly weighted they could find God himself. Casemiro's time at United ended on a high, but nostalgia arguably makes that spell look better than it really was. In reality, his biggest impact came through rage-baiting set-piece goals rather than consistent defensive midfield control, forcing Carrick to reshape his entire system around the Brazilian's forward bursts and leaving Mainu to carry much of the defensive burden for two players. Santos, by contrast, is a true holding midfielder, closer to what Casemiro used to be before he reached proper unk status and his mobility declined. Santos screens the backline, drops between his centre-backs, protects the spaces that were vulnerable last season, and breaks up attacks with authority. In doing so, he brings balance back to the midfield and separates himself from his fellow Brazilian in a way that his new teammates will be thankful for. That balance has especially benefited Mason Mount. Deployed in the double pivot alongside Santos in United's 3 friendlies so far, he has thrived this summer, freed to use his energy and sharp reading of a game as a pressing disruptor higher up the pitch. And once possession is regained, having 2 technically strong midfielders suits United perfectly, allowing Carrick's preferred style of controlled front foot football to finally take shape. As a 22-year-old still refining his craft, there are naturally areas of Santos' game that still require development. At just 5 feet 11 inches and 73 kilograms, he is not an elite athlete in the mould of some of the Premier League's dominant defensive midfielders, and he can look vulnerable against teams that prefer to sit deep and hit opponents on the break. The youngster also leaves something to be desired in the air, being ranked in the 43rd percentile for aerial duels 1/90. Neither he nor Mainu are imposing aerial duelists, and as a pairing could leave United exposed to second balls and set pieces, particularly in a league where physical dominance is increasingly non-negotiable. There is room for refinement in his long-range distribution as well, having averaged just 0.5 long passes per 90 in the Premier League. Compare this to someone like Elliot Anderson, who sets the gold standard in long passes at 1.6 per 90. Yet none of these limitations make him unworkable. Chelsea's recent instability, shaped by ownership turbulence and high managerial turnover, has also made it a difficult environment for any young player to develop. With that in mind, Carrick and Ineos will be doubly determined for what is a high-risk yet high-reward investment to bear fruit. And while he may not be the player many fans anticipated, he has every chance to grow on you. Their midfield rebuild may not be finished, but with additions like this, the pieces are beginning to fall into place. If you enjoyed this video, like and subscribe for more content like this. Also, don't forget to hit the notifications bell so you never miss a beat. And with that, we'll see you in the next video.